We have already figured out how vision, the vestibular system, and our proprioception are connected. Let's discuss once again about why, in particular, coordination disorders and dizziness occur, and why these conditions are often accompanied by tension in the neck and back muscles. In fact, it's all actually quite simple. Our vestibular system serves not only in our ability to move and navigate through space in different directions, but it is also the essential foundation for counteracting the force of gravity. Just think about it. It takes you an entire year of your life to learn how to counteract gravity and maintain your balance as a human being. This is the period from birth until you start walking. This is the time when we first begin to learn to use our important vestibular system and learn to use our extensors, the extensors of the spine. The extensor of the lower limb? It is precisely the extensor muscle that is connected to the vestibular organ because the vestibular analyzer has various nuclei in the brainstem. And there are so-called conducting pathways. These are systems that control our body. And there are a number of conducting pathways that originate specifically from the vestibular nuclei. And often, the activity of the vestibular analyzer or the state of the vestibular analyzer can be reflected in the muscles of the neck and back muscles. Why? Because it is an interconnected system. The proper functioning of one truly ensures the proper functioning of the other, and we really do in fact have certain head movements, or more precisely, certain specific planes of movement and areas, by stimulating which we can actually improve things. The condition of the neck muscles and back muscles. What are these movements and how exactly should they be trained? The vestibular organ, this is what we will discuss in the practical part. In this part, we will talk about training the vestibular organ. And as we already know, first and foremost, any head movements stimulate the vestibular analyzer. But to begin with and to start, sometimes you don't even need to start with head movements. Any movement of the body in space will stimulate the vestibular analyzer. And this can be an option, a basic simplified version. And then we move on to more complex ones. As we know, in any case, everything works together. And we'll start with simple movements, the so-called lunge matrix. We will learn to carefully coordinate our movements together and create. Ensuring this, we will stimulate the vestibular analyzer in its various spots by using different directions of movement. So how do you correctly perform the lunge matrix? In fact, all our movements, whether in sports or in life, consist of certain matrices, patterns. The lunge matrix, here we use lunges and really use our legs, and in order to perform this exercise correctly, we need to imagine a compass with north, south, west, east, and the diagonals, northwest, northeast, southwest, and southeast. Take a moment to picture this compass in your mind, as it will help guide your movements and ensure you are stepping in the correct directions during the exercise. So, these are the directions in which we will be moving. So, let's start with the left leg. To perform the exercise correctly, gently tilt your pelvis backward, that is, to the rear, slowly. Gently round your lower back slightly or keep it in a neutral position. We maintain an upright position. I reach upward with the crown of my head. I imagine pressing up toward the ceiling. And then I make the following movement. A lunge forward at the 45-degree angle. The back leg remains completely straight. I'm not leaning forward, I'm not collapsing. I maintain an upright position. I press my back heel into the floor. We return to the starting position. Next, perform a lunge to the side, then at a 45-degree angle back, and finally straight back. Forward. Move 45 degrees forward, then to the side, then 45 degrees back, and finally straight back now. When we perform these movements, our head also shifts in space. And our vestibular analyzer has 5 receptors, 3 semicircular canals. They detect angular movements of the head, rotations, bending, and we have otoliths. These are receptors that detect linear accelerations. sideways movement, riding an elevator, riding a train. Essentially, here we are creating stimulation of all 5 receptors, but in a gentle way. So let's look at it for the right leg. Forward, 45 degrees forward. To the side, 45 degrees back and straight back. Here you really need to maintain your balance. It's also a good exercise for balance. And once again, forward, carefully 45 degrees forward, to the side, 45 degrees back, straight back. You can make this exercise more challenging by changing the position of your feet. I just did it now with a neutral foot position. They are parallel to each other. I can use internal rotation. It gets a bit more difficult here, as you can see, and this is an excellent mobilization option. I'm creating stimulation of the joint receptors, and I provide good stimulation for the proprioceptive system. This is significantly more difficult. The same with the left, and so on. I can simply use an externally rotated position with my arm. At the same time, I keep my pelvis neutral. I don't turn it. Then so on. I can use combinations. One leg in internal rotation, the other leg in external rotation. The pelvis does not turn, it still faces forward. It's more difficult here. I feel more tension. A good proprioceptive workout. After the lunge matrix, we will move on to a more complex version of vestibular analyzer stimulation. For this particular situation, I would definitely recommend using the metronome. We have a certain reference point to rely on. In general, if we use a metronome, for example, in practice, ideally, the exercise should be performed at a speed of 120 beats per minute. What movements will we be doing? Head turns. That is, in other words, I don't turn my head into the strike, but I try to already be in the final position. I do this smoothly, gently, and calmly. This is the standard. We aim for 180 beats per minute. And so on. What are the safety rules, the safety techniques? First of all, if we start to feel uncomfortable, experience dizziness or nausea, we stop, and at this point, we can either gently relax our eyes or perform smooth, controlled horizontal tracking movements. This will instantly help you to stop and relieve the unpleasant sensations. Also, if it is still difficult for us to do vestibular exercises while standing, we can make it easier by increasing the support area. For example, we can hold on to a sturdy chair, we can hold on to a wall for extra support, or we can simply sit down. It shouldn't feel unpleasant. It should be challenging, but it shouldn't be super easy. It should be difficult, but you really shouldn't experience any discomfort or any unpleasant sensations. I'm demonstrating in a regular position. It's not super difficult for me, but it's not the easiest either. So I set the metronome to 120 beats per minute. You can start at a slower speed. We can also use some kind of target. I can hold it in my hands, it could be my finger, or I can place the target on the wall in front of me. Ideally, it should be some kind of inscription or letter, something I can clearly see and assess whether it becomes blurry during movement or not. It's very important that the target remains sharp. I'm setting it to 120 beats per minute and will proceed. This is stimulation of the vestibular analyzer, the vestibulo-ocular reflex, or VOR. Alright, let's go. "30 seconds of work here will be quite enough. I won't do the full 30 seconds with you, I'll just show you an example for demonstration of how to perform it. Next, the vertical. Diagonal. By the way, to make it easier and for your convenience, you can simply print out the lines on paper if you prefer. And imagine for a moment that you're very gently moving your nose along these lines. I'll show you the diagonal. We don't tilt our head, instead we move our nose gently up to the right but slightly down to the left. Do the same in the other direction. The target should always remain clear. It shouldn't get blurry at any point. If that happens, I simplify the exercise to make it easier to follow. For example, I simplify it as follows. I increase the base of support, use support like a chair or a wall. Eventually, I just sit down. If even while sitting I start to feel nauseous, get dizzy or feel uncomfortable, we go back to the previous exercises, those of the neck exercise and the eye exercise. If we start to feel more or less confident and comfortable but still, even after doing head movements for a while, not even for a long time, just 30 seconds, we feel slight discomfort even while sitting, start from a lying down position. This is the simplest and honestly the safest option for your brain. And it's absolutely normal for you to feel slight discomfort, especially if you have been diagnosed with vestibular disorders. It might be a little unpleasant or uncomfortable at first, but it's actually necessary for adaptation. We may really experience some slight discomfort, however, it shouldn't be critical and there's no need to be afraid of it. Just remember, this is a normal part of the process. So we perform the vestibulo-orcular reflex again, this time horizontally. And here, it makes sense to gradually increase the speed. I'll demonstrate at 180 beats. It's absolutely comfortable, I'm stable, and my target doesn't blur. Remember about progression. We can use a more challenging foot position. This is a bit difficult at such a high speed. I can make the foot position a bit easier by using a split stance, meaning not standing on one leg, but supporting myself with the other, and do the same thing. That way, it's easier for me. I can do this exercise in a challenging rumbird position. That is, with my feet not together, but in a straight line. And that's also quite interesting. Don't forget about progress. Don't forget to keep making things harder. The brain needs novelty in its tasks. Constant new stimulation, more challenge, more challenge, more challenge. So horizontal, vertical, diagonal. 30 seconds will be quite enough. Continue.